Have you ever stood in your backyard with a basket of warm, fresh eggs in your hands and thought, maybe this could become more than just a hobby? Maybe you've looked at your hens scratching around the coop and wondered if a small flock could turn into steady side income, or even the beginning of a real farm business. Welcome back to Farmyard Care, where we talk honestly about raising animals, working the land, and turning homestead dreams into something practical and sustainable. Today, we're looking at one of the most common questions small farmers ask. Are 100 chickens actually profitable? Can a flock that size pay its way, put money in your pocket, and reward all the work you put into it? Or is it one of those ideas that looks wonderful from the outside, but quietly drains your wallet while you work for free? Online, we often see the perfect version of poultry farming: clean coops, calm hens, beautiful nesting boxes, and baskets overflowing with eggs. But once you move from 10 backyard chickens to 100 laying hens, the whole picture changes. A 100-bird flock sits right at what many experienced growers would call a gateway threshold. It is big enough that you need proper systems, daily discipline, and business-style management, but still small enough that you may not qualify for the big savings commercial farms get when buying feed, supplies, and equipment in bulk. So today, I've done the math for you. We're going to walk through the real numbers behind a 100-layer flock: the startup costs, the feed bill, the hidden expenses, the labor, the risks, and also the real satisfaction that comes from raising productive hens well. So settle in, think like a farmer and a business owner, and let's break down the true economics of raising 100 backyard chickens for profit. Are 100 chickens enough to make money? Let's find out. Part 1, the dream versus the reality, the 100-bird threshold. Let's begin with the dream, because almost every small farm idea starts there. You raise a few chickens, you collect fresh eggs, and sooner or later you start thinking, if 10 hens give my family enough eggs, then 100 hens should give me enough eggs to sell and make real money. On paper, that sounds simple. But in real farm life, the jump from 10 birds to 100 birds changes everything. A 100-chicken flock sits in a difficult middle ground. With 10 birds, mistakes are usually manageable. If production drops, if feed gets a little expensive, or if you only sell a few dozen eggs to neighbors, it is still mostly a hobby. But with 100 laying hens, you are no longer just collecting eggs for fun. You may need to move more than 40 dozen eggs every single week, and that means you need customers, consistency, and a system. At this size, you cannot manage the flock by guessing. A 100-layer setup can succeed, and a 1,000-layer farm can succeed too. But both can also fail if the owner does not plan carefully and stay disciplined. The flock size alone does not create profit. Good management does. A 100-layer flock is more forgiving than a large commercial operation, but it still has to be treated like a business. If you do not track expenses, monitor production, manage feed, and plan your sales, those birds can quickly turn from a farm asset into a financial burden. And here is the question many small farmers avoid. Have you ever written down every dollar you spend on your chickens? Most people have not. That is where the confusion begins. So now let's look honestly at what it really costs to build this kind of operation. Part 2, the initial investment, building the foundation. Let's talk about the first big number, the startup investment. Before your hens lay a single egg, you need to spend money on the foundation of the business. That means housing, protection, equipment, and the birds themselves. Chickens do not produce profit just because we hope they will. They need a proper place to live, lay, eat, drink, and stay safe. For 100 hens, a good starting point is about 1.5 to 2 square feet of indoor coop space per bird. That means you are looking at a coop of at least 150 to 200 square feet. If you plan to raise them on pasture or give them regular outdoor access, then you also need additional outside space that is secure and well managed. The cost depends heavily on how you build. If you are skilled with tools and can use reclaimed lumber, you might build a basic coop for around $300. If you buy a semi-commercial kit, the cost may be closer to $2,200. And if you want a professional insulated structure built for long-term use, that number can climb to around $4,500. But the coop is only one part of the setup. Predator protection is just as important. To a raccoon, fox, or coyote, an unprotected flock is an easy meal. A simple wire fence may cost around $100, but a more reliable electric netting system can run about $450. Then you still need feeders, waterers, nesting space, and possibly a brooding setup if you are starting with chicks. When you add everything together, the initial investment for a 100-bird flock can range from a bare-bones setup around $825 to a more serious setup around $4,175. That upfront cost matters, because the decisions you make at the beginning will affect your labor, bird health, egg production, and profit for years. Part 3. Choosing the right birds, the profit generators. Once the housing is ready, the next question is simple. What birds are going to live there? This is one of the most important choices in the entire business. If your goal is egg income, you cannot choose birds only because they look pretty or because they are popular online. You need hens that match your market, your management style, and your production goals. There are three common ways to start your flock: day-old chicks, started pullets, or mature laying hens. Day-old chicks are usually the cheapest option, often around $3 to $10 each. But they require brooding, careful care, and patience. You may wait 18 to 24 weeks before they produce a single egg you can sell. Started pullets, usually around 16 to 20 weeks old, cost more, often between $15 and $30 each. But they save you time, reduce the risk of losing fragile young chicks, and bring you much closer to egg production. Mature laying hens can produce even faster, but quality age and long-term productivity must be checked carefully. Breed choice also matters. If you want maximum egg numbers, commercial hybrids such as ISA Browns, Golden Comets, and White Leghorns are strong producers. These birds can lay around 280 to more than 300 eggs per year under good management. They are built for efficiency. Heritage breeds like Rhode Island Reds or Australorps may produce slightly fewer eggs, often around 200 to 300 per year. But many farmers like them because they are hardy, calm, and can keep laying over a longer useful life. And if your market pays more for colorful eggs, you may consider Easter eggers or Americanas for blue and green eggs that stand out in premium egg baskets. The breed you choose will shape your production, your marketing, and your profit. So the real question is this: are you building a flock for maximum volume, or are you building one for premium value? Part 4, the feed monster, the ultimate variable cost. Now we come to one of the biggest challenges in the entire operation: feed. In a small egg business, feed is the cost that can quietly decide whether you make money or lose money. I often call it the feed monster because it never stops eating into your profit. In many layer operations, feed can represent 60% to 80% of your ongoing costs. Let's put real numbers on it. At peak production, one laying hen eats about a quarter pound of feed per day, or around 125 grams. For 100 birds, that means roughly 25 pounds of feed every day. Over 1 month, your flock can go through about 750 pounds of feed. That is about 15 50-pound bags. If you are buying feed at regular retail prices, let's say around $19.50 per bag, you are spending close to $293 every month just to keep those hens fed. Over a full year, that becomes several $1,000s, and that is before you count anything else. Feed is not the only operating cost either. You still have bedding, egg cartons, equipment repairs, oyster shell for calcium, and sometimes vaccines or basic health supplies. Egg cartons alone can cost around 34 to 48 cents each, depending on how you buy them. When everything is added together, monthly operating costs can easily land between $300 and $400. This is why feed planning matters so much. If you underfeed your birds, production drops. If you overpay for feed, your profit disappears. If your feeding system is messy and wasteful, the birds are not the only ones eating your money. Experienced farmers often look for ways to reduce this pressure, such as fermenting feed, using pasture foraging, or sourcing safe local byproducts like brewer's grains. At this scale, you have to be resourceful because every saved dollar helps protect your margin. Part 5, doing the math: egg production and revenue. So now that money is going out every month, the next question is simple: when does it come back? This is where we look at egg production and revenue. In poultry farming, consistency is everything. A flock that lays well 1 week and drops sharply the next is hard to build a business around. A well-managed flock of 100 commercial layers should average around an 80% to 85% laying rate. In practical terms, that means you may collect about 80 eggs per day. Over 1 month, that gives you roughly 2,400 eggs, or about 200 dozen. But here is where the market determines your result. If you sell those eggs at a standard wholesale or grocery-style price, maybe around $3 per dozen, your monthly revenue is only about $600. After subtracting $300 to $400 in feed and operating expenses, there is not much left. The margin is thin, and one bad month can wipe it out quickly. Now compare that with direct-to-consumer selling. If your customers are willing to pay for farm-fresh, pasture-raised, locally produced eggs at $6 to $8 per dozen, the same 200 dozen eggs can bring in $1,200 to $1,500 per month. That is a very different business. At $6 per dozen, 200 dozen eggs generate about $1,200 a month. Subtract a $300 feed bill, and you have $900 left before other expenses. After you remove the cost of cartons, bird replacement, small repairs, and other routine costs, your operating profit might look like $600 per month. That sounds encouraging. $600 a month from a flock of 100 hens can feel like real progress. But before we celebrate too quickly, there is one calculation many small farmers forget, and it may be the most important one of all. Part 6, the hidden cost. Your precious labor here is the question every small farmer needs to ask. What is your actual hourly rate? Not your sales, not your gross profit. Your real hourly rate after the work is counted. Many people raising animals on a small farm make the same mistake. They do the chores themselves and treat their labor as free. That is a dangerous habit. It is what I call the employee mindset. If you want to know whether the farm is truly profitable, you have to think like a business owner. Your time has value, just like feed, bedding, fencing, or equipment. Look at the daily routine. You may spend 45 minutes in the morning feeding, checking water, and making sure the flock is healthy. Later in the day, you may spend another 30 minutes collecting eggs, plus extra time washing, sorting, packing, and delivering them. Very quickly, that becomes around 1.5 hours of labor every day. Over a month, that is about 45 hours. If you pay yourself even a modest $20 per hour, your labor is worth $900 per month. Now you can see the problem. Earlier, the flock looked like it might produce around $600 in operating profit. But if your labor is worth $900, then after paying yourself properly, the 100-bird flock may actually be losing about $300 a month. That does not mean raising 100 chickens is a bad idea. It means you need to be honest with the numbers. You may not be building a profitable business yet. You may be creating a low-paying job for yourself, and in some cases a job that pays less than zero once your time is counted. So the answer is not to quit. The answer is to rethink the strategy. Part 7. Scaling up versus scaling smart. If a 100-bird flock starts to show a loss once you put a real value on your time, then the next question is obvious. What do you do about it? For many successful small farmers, the answer is not just to scale up. The real answer is to scale up wisely. Think about the daily work. If it takes you around 1.5 hours a day to manage 100 birds, that does not mean 500 birds will take 5 times the labor. With better systems, larger feeders, better watering setups, organized egg collection, and a smoother routine, many farmers can manage 500 birds in about 3 hours a day. That is where labor efficiency begins to change the whole business. The same thing happens with supplies. Once you reach 300 to 500 birds, you can often stop buying feed 150-pound bag at a time at retail prices. Instead, you may be able to buy 1-ton totes directly from a feed mill. That can bring your feed costs down in a serious way. Egg cartons can also become cheaper when you buy by the pallet, dropping from around 48 cents each to closer to 34 cents each. Now look at the difference. At 500 birds, if your monthly revenue reaches around $6,000, your bulk feed cost might be about $1,500, and your labor might be valued around $1,500. After other expenses, you could still be looking at more than $1,500 a month in real business profit. That is a very different picture from working hard just to break even. But growth in poultry should never be rushed. Scaling is not about adding more birds and hoping the money follows. It is about building a system at 100 birds, proving that it works, and then expanding that system so your income grows faster than your problems. You do not need to jump to 500 birds overnight. A 100-bird flock can be your training ground. Part 8, the verdict. Is 100 chickens profitable? So are 100 chickens profitable? The honest answer is, it depends on what you mean by profit. If you are looking only at cash flow and you are treating your own labor as part of the lifestyle, then yes, a 100-hen flock can put an extra $500 to $600 in your pocket each month. It can pay for its own feed, provide your family with excellent food, and help you build real connections with customers in your community. But if you put the numbers on a strict business ledger, the 100-bird flock is usually more of a stepping stone than a final destination. It is the gateway stage. It teaches you how to manage feed, track production, handle customers, protect birds, and understand whether this kind of work truly fits your life. And we should not ignore the value that does not always show up as cash. Chickens give you what many farmers call black gold, rich, high-nitrogen manure that can improve your garden and reduce what you spend on fertilizer. They help control insects, clean up kitchen scraps, and teach children responsibility, patience, and the value of daily work. There is also room to add other benefits. Some small farms raise meat birds seasonally, filling the freezer with homegrown chicken at around $3.45 per pound and reducing grocery costs. When you look at the whole homestead, profit is not always just money in your wallet. Sometimes profit is knowing where your food came from. Sometimes it is the security of producing more at home. And sometimes it is the satisfaction of watching a healthy flock thrive because of your care. Conclusion: raising 100 chickens is not easy money. It takes discipline, good biosecurity, constant predator protection, careful feed management, and the willingness to track your numbers honestly. It may not make you rich, but it can build the foundation for a stronger, more resilient homestead. A 100-bird flock teaches you the mechanics of small-scale poultry farming. It shows you where your costs are, where your time goes, how strong your market is, and whether you are ready to grow. If you can manage 100 birds well, you are building the skills needed for something bigger. So the real question is this: are you ready to scale your flock? Or is a smaller flock for family, friends, and local customers the better fit for your life right now? Whatever path you choose, keep your hands working, keep your birds healthy, and always know your numbers. Until next time, keep growing.